Might be a tumor.
It's not a tumor.
The Film Lounge presents...
Spoiler-free movie review!
First you gotta do the truffle shuffle. Come on!
with Chris Gooch.
I'm the dude.
The Film Lounge presents...
Rewind Review. Spoiler free, not guaranteed.
Every person can be a force for good. Free to forge his own destiny.
It was the 2013 return of the spandex-clad Christ metaphor with dreamy good looks and abs of steel that made Hugh Jackman look like he was out of shape. Granted, it was a very divisive return to the big screen, but in this review rewind, we need to ask the big question. Was Zack Snyder's take on Man of Steel really up to its mettle? Well, yes and no. There's a lot of good in this film, but there's also a lot of criticism that at times can be warranted.
I will find him!
The story itself is a pretty straightforward Superman origin story. You know the one. Last son of Krypton is sent to Earth, became a fisherman, worked in a few bars, saved a bunch of kids in a school bus as a child, didn't save his dad from a tornado as a teenager, finds his space dad in a spaceship hidden under the ice, and dons a perfectly tailored spandex suit despite it being made for him centuries before he arrived on Earth. Okay, so maybe it's not so straightforward. The film does a lot of stuff really well. The origin elements of the film have all the strength and validity of the Christopher Nolan's Batman Begins. Sure, some people may complain that we spend way too much time on Krypton, but if you want to do a like-for-like comparison with the classic Richard Donner original, we actually spend more time on Krypton back in 1978 than we did in 2013.
What's the S stand for?
It's not an S. On my world, it means hope.
Well, here it's an S. How about...
Excuse me.
Although some may complain about Amy Adams, at least we were given an age-appropriate Lois Lane for once, and the film has made a bold choice to have her discover his secret identity before he has even had a secret identity. This makes her a far more accomplished character than previous incarnations, which couldn't see the forest through the f***ing glasses. Another great element to the film is its commitment to the theme of steel. From the opening title cards, to the Kryptonian technology, to the costumes, to the color grading, to Hans Zimmer's steel drumming score. Okay, look, can we just stop the review just for 1 second and just ask the obvious question? Why didn't someone in Warner Brothers ask Zack Snyder why he made those things look like dildos? But is this a perfect film? Oh, definitely not. The second half of the film is where you really feel like Christopher Nolan's influence went off to make The Dark Knight Rises, and Zack Snyder went full Zack Snyder. And you should never go full Zack Snyder.
You will not win. For every human you save, we will kill 1 million more.
In the usual Snyder fare of style over substance, we are inundated with some of the most amazingly beautiful visuals and sequences that I've always wanted to see in a Superman movie. But honestly, it all went on for far too long. I didn't know that I would get bored with watching buildings fall down. Naturally, in a world filled with Avengers, Transformers, and the normal benign blockbuster destruction, Superman had to step it up. But maybe it just stepped it up a bit too much.
If you love these people so much, you can mourn for them.
Now, as a comic book fan, I don't have an issue with Superman killing Zod. I know there are a lot of fans who are up in arms about this scene and say that Superman would never do this, but they seem so quick to forget that Superman did the same thing in Superman 2. And back then, Superman had depowered Zod before throwing him off a cliff. So I really have no issue with Superman killing, because it happened in the past, and it worked for the conflict that was presented in the film. Of course, getting back to the whole style versus substance thing, you can say what you will, but two superpowered dudes throwing themselves through buildings certainly looks cool, but a lot of people probably died in the process, and for me, that's easily the biggest gripe about this movie. Superman makes no effort to save anybody, unless you're in the army. Hell, Superman even saves Lois Lane one time while she's wearing army fatigues. Surely, amongst all this choreography of carnage, Snyder could have included one of Superman's core values, and shown him at least trying to save some people in between fighting Zod. Ultimately, I feel this all boils down to Snyder pulling a Michael Bay and thinking, this looks cool, without actually thinking through the repercussions. There's nothing wrong with that, but he needs to own it instead of constantly defending this choice. Because believe me, he was not thinking straight when he went full Snyder.
You will give the people of Earth an ideal to strive towards. They will race behind you. They will stumble. They will fall. But in time, they will join you in the sun. In time, you will help them accomplish wonders.
So despite these complaints, I feel Man of Steel made some great steps towards establishing a shiny new franchise and cinematic universe, even though there may have been a few missteps along the way. Will Batman and Superman Dawn of Justice make up for these missteps, or just create a whole new hot mess to deal with? Only time will tell. Man of Steel gets 3 out of 5 stars. Or 3 out of 5 complex dreams about a shirtless Henry Cavill that I probably need to talk to my wife about.
You can save them. You can save all of them.